Oh, गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमस्ते शारदा देवी काश्मीरपुरवासिनी विद्यादानं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। ओम श्री सद्गुरुदेवाय नमः। हरि ओम। So let us begin our today's session. I will particularly not use the wireframe for our today's session. Share my screen. Okay, this will be very simple actually today. And I'll see if we can also do some sort of coding to demonstrate what concept I'm introducing. But basically, what we want to discuss today and I want to introduce today is the concept of styling the HTML content that we create. Okay, for now we have seen that HTML is the markup text language and it is used to transmit text kind of information over the internet. And we have seen the semantic aspect of it, where we want to do things in a meaningful way. We want to structure the content in a way that makes sense and all. Now it comes to styling the content. So this is where we are now entering into more visual aspect of things. As long as we get our HTML right semantically, we have pretty much covered the non-visual aspect of things and different modes of communication over the internet, which are not necessarily visual. Okay, we might create a website, but if somebody is accessing it using screen reader or braille reader, they will still be able to access our website if our HTML and content is semantic. But now we also want to target the little bit higher category by enhancing our content visually. Okay. First, we have cleared and ensured the basics, without which everything else is just an accessory. Okay. Structurally, our car should be drivable. Okay. Structurally, our apartment should be, strong and feasible, livable. Okay. Then it comes to painting the car or painting the apartment and ensuring that it looks good and pleasant. Okay. Will just the paint ensure that the car is safe or apartment is safe to live in?
No.
No, right? It is an enhancement, but it is not the fundamental aspect of things. So these things we call progressive enhancement development strategy. Very important. We progressively enhance from fundamentals, which matter the most. We start from fundamentals and then we progressively enhance all the way up to the cutting edge experience that we want. But in the process, we always start from fundamentals so that the critical aspect of things are taken care of. Okay. If the enhancement fails, our content is still accessible. It's not like if the enhancement fails, the content is absolutely useless. Okay, if you have not done it properly, if you are not focused on HTML properly, and you straight away optimize the website for CSS styling, then what happens? If styling fails, the website is unusable. Clear? If the walls in the house are built out of cardboard and they are painted nicely, then styling is good, but fundamental is not there. Clear? If the styling fails, then the wall fails as well. Versus, you create a foundationally strong wall and then you paint over it. If the paint fails, you can paint again. Or at the very worst, it doesn't matter if the paint fails. You can still stay in the apartment. Does that make sense? It will still function.
Yes.
Yes, Darsh. Yes.
Yeah. So this is the strategy of progressive enhancement. So what we want to do now, let's say we have a couple of tags. Okay. So this is some HTML content. Is this content easily understandable?
Yes.
There is a main
Yes.
heading, there is a subheading,
Then
there is a paragraph under that subheading, and there is a list here. Okay, now I want to enhance the styling of this content. Okay, so there are three important aspects of doing that. One is naming, one is no, let me go back, take it back. Let's not even go into naming and all first. So the way we do enhancement of content visually is through something called CSS, cascading style sheets. Okay. And out of that, the only concept that is important to us is called styling or styles. Basically, we want to call this exercise styling the content. Okay, and this style sheets are used for styling the content. It's nothing like it's a file similar to HTML. Like you have all this code going on in an HTML file. You can also have CSS code going on in a CSS file. Or you can also have CSS code along with HTML, which is not usually recommended. But you can also write CSS code along with HTML inside a style tag. Okay. Now, the thing that is really important here is how do you style the content? Let us say I want to give a particular color to this main header. Okay. Or a particular font size for this paragraph. Okay. Or a particular formatting for Guruji's profile. So what I will do is I will use a combination of naming, ID, class. What are they useful for? Naming is assigning a name, styling name to any of the HTML tag. Okay, in order to style it particularly, if I just say within style body color green, what it does is it converts all of these into green, and that we don't want. Okay, we want to particularly, let's say, just target this main heading of the site. Okay, so what I need to do is I want to pick a name for targeting this particular tag through CSS or through styles. Okay, and I can say that name is either ID or class equal to site heading. Okay, so I can either say ID or class equal to site heading. I am giving a meaningful name here. Again, see, naming is the thing that is most important. Like HTML, selection of right tag is most important. How do you name your styling attributes is also very important. Okay, I can also just say an ambiguous name like H1. Okay, and then I can specify here H1 color green. Okay, but the problem with this approach is that I don't know what is this H1 about. And tomorrow, if there are more than one similar content in the page, I'll get confused. Let's say I'm targeting subtitles here. Then I will say H2 and H2, color green and color blue. I'll get confused. So what I have to do is select the right name for this kind of content. And this content is actually denoting site title. So I will say site title color green. Okay. Now I need to pick either an ID or a class as an attribute for the naming of an element of a tag. Okay. Now, when I should pick what? When I should pick an ID and when I should pick a class. But so far so good. Do you have any questions related to how I am able to target a particular HTML tag or a particular type of HTML tag and style it?
Yes, Dhaval, it's clear. Clear.
Okay. Okay, so when I should use an ID versus when I should use a class. Okay, ID is when you want to target a content which is repeating only once in the page, because the IDs are supposed to be unique. Okay, if I give this ID to this element, it makes sense from both HTML and CSS perspective. HTML will also consider this element to have this kind of an ID and use it internally for, things like forms and all. And CSS also you can target it using this kind of convention. But the constraint is that it can only appear once in the page. This ID cannot be repeated. It is a syntax error if I repeat this. It's not a valid HTML anymore if I do this. Okay. Whereas if I want to target some content repeatedly, okay, let us say I want to target all the list items here, which are denoting the profiles of our team. Okay, then I can say that class equal to about team member. And this I can repeat throughout the list. Okay. And now if I say in styling for ID, we need to use the hash sign. And for class, we need to use the dot sign. But if I say about team member, color blue, then what it will do? All of these will be blue colored because they are sharing the same class name. So far, so good. Any questions? Okay. Now let us say particularly I want to target the profile of Guruji and format it a bit differently. Okay. Then what I can say here is that ID equal to about Guruji. Okay. And I can say that about Guruji is font weight bold. So don't worry about all the syntax portions. I'm not really focusing at this point of time on how to make something bold, okay, or how to change color of something. That can always be looked up. But I'm selectively targeting one HTML element within a group of already styled HTML elements. Okay. So here what happens is all of them are blue, but particularly this list item entry of Guruji is also bold. Does this make sense?
Yes, Dhaval. Yes, Dhaval.
This is also bold. So these are blue, and this is blue and bold. Clear? Okay. I can also alternatively do this. Okay, this is one more way of targeting. But there is a problem here that I will tell. What is the problem? Okay. So let us say I'm giving this list a name. Okay. UL class UL ID equal to our team or about our team. Okay. So now what I will do is about our team and li. Okay. I will say color blue. So what does this do? Any ID which has about our team, all the LIs within that ID, make them color blue. So we can also specify the nesting here. It is not just single element. We can specify n number of nesting here. If there is within each li there is an a tag, within each a tag there is a span tag. You can specify the full hierarchy if you want. Okay, there are advantages and disadvantages of doing both. But if you want, you can specify that hierarchy. Okay, now what this will do about our team ID, all the LIs within that ID, make them color blue. Okay, I can also specify Guruji's color to be a bit more different. Okay, now what will this do? Can anybody tell me the output?
All of them will, other than Guruji's, other two will be blue. Guruji's will be purple and gold.
Bold. Okay, so first rule that will be applied is color all the LIs blue. But then the next rule that comes is that, if it encounters Guruji's ID, then change that color to purple and apply a font weight of bold. Okay, now there is a disadvantage to this approach as well. Okay, so we have to be careful about using this kind of approach. Here we are specifying an HTML element rather than a class or an ID. Okay, and the problem with that is that today it is a ULLI structure. Okay, tomorrow if I change it to something else, okay, let us say we are using bolt or something, and bolt changes on its own this thing to something else. Now what happens with our rule?
It will not work.
It will not work. Okay, because it was specific to the HTML markup that we are writing. Okay, so that is why it is important to think in terms of naming rather than using the markup directly wherever possible. Okay, if it is a must, only then and then try and use the markup. Otherwise, try and give proper names wherever possible, so that we are not reliant on markup as much as possible. If required, what we can still do here is, class equal to team member. And instead of li, we can say that it will still work in the way that we want it to work. But now we are no longer reliant on the HTML element name. Okay. And now there are various things related to HTML that you can apply. There are things related to border box. That means you can specify a width, you can specify a height, you can specify margin of this element, padding of this element. Padding means, however space should be around this element, or what is the margin it should keep from top element or bottom element. What is the width it should consume, what is the height it should consume. Usually Bolt will do all these things for us. Okay. You might have to look up sometimes on what it can do and what it cannot do. We will do an exercise of converting our semantic page that we have developed to a proper layout using CSS in the next session. Meantime, you all get familiar with this way of styling content in CSS. And next session we will convert our PDF that we have shared in the chat room using CSS. But before that, all of you have to do the assignment. Once it is done, I will do the exercise. Okay, now let us put this into practice. You can also see where you can do all these things. Okay, I will share a collaborative coding tool where you can do all these exercises yourself very easily. Okay, so it's a tool called jsbin.com. What you can do is you can specify your HTML here. Okay, so you can see that it gave you the output directly. So while you are learning HTML, it's a very good tool to use. It will allow you to quickly experiment things. Okay. And okay. Now there is one more thing that you notice here, that this color purple did not apply here. Okay, that's an interesting problem. And you need to understand why it is called cascading style sheets. That's the last portion of our session today. Cascading style sheets. Cascading means these styles are applied to all the elements in a cascading manner. And each of the rules carry a weight. Okay, that means this rule about our team and team member, it carries a weight of either an ID or ID plus class or ID plus class plus HTML element. So let me write that down for you. ID plus class, ID plus class plus HTML tag name, or just class or just HTML tag name. Okay, so ID carries the highest weight. And class carries second highest, HTML tag name least. Okay, so combination when you are doing, you need to ensure that the weight is appropriate. Otherwise, what will happen is, see, this rule is having a weight of ID plus class. So although we are specifying another rule about Guruji here, for the color portion, this rule is still dominating that HTML element. Why?
The ID is the highest.
ID.
The weight.
ID is not highest
ID.
because otherwise we are also specifying ID here. See, both of them are using ID, but this is having ID plus class.
Yes, Guruji has ID plus class in the HTML element in the list.
Yeah, in the list we are specifying that, but in the CSS we are not specifying that. So this rule is having the most highest weight. Okay, if I am just saying this like, dot team member. Okay, then you can see that it turned to purple
Yes, okay.
because class is carrying less weight than ID. Okay, but if I am having class and ID, then this will carry more weight. So even if I'm specifying another rule about Guruji here, it does not apply. Okay. Here, if I have to apply that, then what I need to do? Either I need to say about our team and Guruji. Okay, so I need to add more weight here. Now it is having weight of 2 IDs, which will be more than ID plus class. Or I need to give it an equal weight at the very least. So what I will do? About Guruji, which also has a class. Okay, so I will say dot team member. Then it has now the same weight, but since the rule is coming after the previous rule, it is applying that rule.
Okay.
Okay. Usually we will not run across these situations, but sometimes when you find that, style is not working as expected, is when this kind of troubleshooting will help. Most of the times, Bolt and all will be taking care of the styling, and you will not have to worry about these kind of things. Our main concern is naming and ID class and our knowledge of this specificity or weightage of combinations. Okay. Today we covered some things related to color and font. We will cover later, the concept of spacing tomorrow, and we will do the exercise of that converting that semantic document into a working layout. We can also specify. Now you can see that it also has a background color. So all the things related to color, font. There are multiple things related to font, but individual syntaxes, you will not have to worry. So to recap quickly, targeting the content for styling them through progressive enhancement is where we will use CSS. There is a concept of naming and ID and class. If it is a repeating thing, we would want to target using class. If it is a single thing, we would want to target using ID, and the name should be very meaningful rather than this being, a name like list item, which does not make any sense when we are targeting things here. We would want to keep it very meaningful so that it is easier to understand and maintain in future. Okay, so we would want to capture the essence of the content in the name here. Clear?
Yes, Jagat.
Yes, Ji.
Okay, we can close for today. I will paste this content as well as the JSBin link in the session chat group.
Okay.
Okay. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amrutam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.